You're listening to a Time Machine podcast. Old Movie Time Machine. An adventure through time and or space.
Dishes are done, man.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Old Movie Time Machine. Oops, all 90s. That's right, folks. This is your favorite movie show where we take these motion picture films from a certain era in time. We used to do the Cold War, 40s, 50s, up to 65, but now we've, in our never-ending quest for increasing our relevance to the modern age, we've moved it up to the 1990s. Right. So very hip, very with it, very current.
It is very current.
Yeah, it's
we
very
are so current.
The 90s are very nowdies, if you will. Not to be confused with the naughties, which are different. So what are we doing here? We take these motion picture films made typically in the old US of A, between the years of 1990 and 1999, I guess. Well, that's new to the intro. We're taking these and we're using them as windows into the past. We throw these windows open and we climb through the window of time, and there we are. Boom. It's the 90s, folks. And while we are on our adventure in the 1990s, we're going to be asking ourselves some critical questions, such as these people we're seeing in all of these Ringer t-shirts and Abercrombie pants. Who are these people? What are their habits? How are they treating each other? What decisions are they making, and why are they making them? And of course, never forget the most important aspect. What are they wearing, and what do their living rooms look like? And then at the end of the show, we climb back to the window of time to modern, contemporary 2024 of this recording. And we ask ourselves the final, the vital, the ultimate question on behalf of all of humanity here in the 21st century, which is, hey, you guys, this movie that we just watched, The Window of Time, the era that we were exploring, all the people, sights, sounds, smells, if you will. Do we keep watching this thing? Is this something that we're going to carry on through time? We're going to pass it down generation to generation like it's Mel Brooks's Spaceballs? Is it one of those? Shrishma's a little confused. Is this one of those movies that just carries on some kind of legacy throughout the ages and represents what the 90s were all about? We will find out. But first, we need to live up to a longstanding promise of overthrowing the patriarchy, which in this case is me, I guess.
It is. It is.
So I am ceding my authoritative role as host today, just for today. No.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. I like this hands off the wheel, personally. I like not driving. I've done a lot of driving on this program.
You have.
But now we need to bust out the old map quest. We need to print out some maps to a new destination, and we need to hand the keys over to a new host. So taking us through today's motion picture extravaganza, 1998's Can't Hardly Wait, is my sister and yours, Carolyn Naoroz. Take it away, sis.
Thanks. 1998, Can't Hardly Wait. I mean, I can't hardly wait to talk about it. I really think this is an important movie, though, that we have a bit of a female narrator on, because it is definitely written from a white male perspective in kind of that glossy Hollywood fashion that they do. But yeah, I mean, this is a movie that to sandwich this between, this is the end of the 90s. We're talking, I think Justin, this would have been present for you as a senior in high school.
Yep, class of 99 over here. So this
class of 99. Yeah, it was very, very relevant to you. I, was 8th grade going into 9th grade. So this is definitely like what I thought high school was going to be.
You would have been looking up to Mike Dexter.
Yes, I would. And what I came to learn was that this is not at all school was going to be like, one, and two, certainly not my high school experience, because I went to boarding school halfway through. So very different. Right. But it is listed or described as a complete graduating class consisting of beautiful girls, geeks, and promising footballers assemble at a rich classmate's residence for a party. Interesting developments follow at the get-together.
I thought at first when you mentioned Beautiful Girls that it was in a class with the movie Beautiful Girls, which also we should put on the list,
movie.
right?
Oh my God, put it on the list.
What's that movie?
It's got
oh my God,
very early Natalie Portman in it.
Interesting.
Like she's like 13 or something like that. Steals the show. Interesting picture. Really liked it. Once Upon a Time. I don't know if it's going to age very well though. I guess we'll have to find out at some point. But
I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll have to watch it. We'll put that on. We'll add it to the list.
White dudes talking about white dude. Bro.
Yeah, it's more white dudes that are afraid to like grow the fuck up.
Man babies, actually, definitive 90s man babies.
Well, when they were
a bunch of man babies,
they were man boys, I guess, or baby boys.
No, see, they are man boys in this movie that we're talking about this week. But if we're talking about Beautiful Girls, they are man babies.
Yeah, they're all deep in their 30s.
They're deep into their 30s and afraid to take the next step. But that's also why you, as a 30-something-year-old, should be hitting on a 13-year-old that's your neighbor. That's Natalie Portman. Questionable.
Don't give away the farm here, Carolyn. That's a whole episode. And it's just what you just said there. That's an hour and a half worth of chat right there.
I know. We're not going to go there because we are going to talk about Can't Hardly Wait, which I think is a pretty classic 1990s high school, very high school specific movie. It's got all the stereotypes, all the archetypes, all of the bad fashion of the 90s that has come back into trend.
It was painful to relive, I have to say.
It was.
Having lived through it the first time,
was it really like that though? As someone who lived through it?
Yeah, I mean, it was really...
There was a lot of Abercrombie and Fitch.
Carolyn, may I have the floor for a second? Can I contextualize, or would you like to contextualize?
No, I think we can, now that we've heard that elevator pitch, which is really bad. We'll get into characters later, but let's talk about the fashion. Let's talk about the fashion because it is such a big piece of the hierarchy and culture of the 1990s, especially in a high school setting. So Justin, yes, I'm going to let you take the floor because I think I have follow up to you.
Just for a moment, just to describe where we're at in time now, because we were Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Right. I mean, night and day difference. I think we could all maybe agree. Like it's still a bunch of white people problems, but the vibe is very different here.
Yes. We do have some people of color. It's just
we do. Yes, diversity has entered the picture,
but they are not. They are not main characters.
No, they are not. So what has happened in between let's say the filming of Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, 1990, and the filming of this movie, which is probably 97, if not early 98, but definitely feels very 98. I mean, things didn't change that much. I've got a whole other detour about that. We don't have to get into it now, but what has happened in between that time is we saw the death of the 1980s.
Right.
With the rise of alternative rock and roll culture. I mean, it's a whole lifestyle that comes with, it's not just these records. It's a way of life kind of thing. You know, it's like kind of the last gasp of being able to live like that based on, you know, what this band is up to. That gets old after a certain point.
Were you the kid who was part of the band in these parties?
Yeah. No.
I wished I would have been. I never played at like house parties or anything like that. Yeah, no, I didn't play a show till so much later. But I definitely identified with those kids because I was those kids. You know, it was me in the basement with the guitar, you know, singing my sad songs, my dopey songs.
Wait, that was like yesterday, wasn't it?
Well, that is also very current.
Not much has changed.
Yeah, no, things haven't changed much at all, actually.
He's not in the basement anymore.
That's true.
He's on the fourth floor.
You have a balcony. There's a view.
I got a balcony
with a beautiful view.
That's right.
Some would say you've made it in life.
Yeah, I started at the bottom and now I'm here. Right.
Okay, but let's talk about this fashion and why it's so hard for you to relive.
Just real quick. So the alternative nation has risen and has also collapsed. So by which I mean like all those bands, the critical cultural figures of the times, they all start overdosing on heroin, basically. Right. So they just die. The bands break up. The wind gets taken out of the sails. Also, this was an organic movement that was happening throughout the 1980s. It hits the mainstream in the 1990s. So what does the mainstream do? We try to commodify it. We try to package it. We try to make it, oh God, all these groups are making this particular type of sound, which is like a loud, heavy dynamic, and it's very guitar centric, but they're all junkies.
All shopping at PacSun.
Well, not those guys, but
I'm kidding.
Not the grunge guys, but certainly like skate culture becomes mainstream.
Yes.
You know, you
The
start
X
seeing
Games.
Yeah, X Game, right? Just like it's all alternative. Some of it's cool. You can kind of pick it up at the mall, at your PacSun, if you will. You can get your Mosimo and your Stussy gear or whatever, which are legitimate brands from an undercult, you know, a subculture. But then we start to, you know, like, God, we got to get rid of these dope addicts because they're really problematic and not very reliable. We got these quotas we got to hit. You know, we got quarterlies coming up. We got to put out something and float the industry here. So we're going to start kind of getting safer musicians in, still like the same style,
Right.
but it's like, it's just not as, we get the entrance of what we call the number bands, your Matchbox 20, your Third Eye Blinds, your Eve 6s, your 7 Mary 3s, your Blink 182s.
I loved all of them.
Most of, for a second there, I believed you.
I did.
Did you? Oh, okay.
For real.
Oh, all right.
Third Eye Blind, Blink 182,
So
Matchbox 20.
This soundtrack
Love
then
them.
was the soundtrack for your young. Okay. For me, this was like the beginning of we're dulling the blades a little bit. That seeps back out of the culture and goes back to the underground. What happens? We fill the void with more mall shit, right? And this is the rise of like American Eagle and Abercrombie and Fitch. We start seeing all these like branded things that were no-goes for the first 5 years of the decade. All of a sudden, that is the ongoing trend. And we see it all over, maybe not the actual brands, but we see these outfits in this movie.
Sold these outfits. They sold these outfits through shirtless white people, white boys with like heavily perfumed.
Got to sell those doctors.
Right.
Whatever.
Hello, all the advertisements for Abercrombie and Fitch, they weren't wearing anything.
Yeah.
So what were they selling? They were just selling sex, teenage sex, people. That's what we're selling.
Right.
Because their advertisements were legit just shirtless boys.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, in conclusion, it's all very clean. It's all very tidy. I noticed the fashion in this movie, even when they're trying to be edgy, like Preston is sort of the alternative avatar for this. He's sort of you can tell he's supposed to be the free thinker, and he's wearing a, red velvet jacket and like he's layering his shirts. That's a very 90s, see a Lollapalooza type of look. But he's as edgy as it gets. There's the metal guy with the boombox when we get to the Paradise City scene. But even he is very much like a cartoony version of somebody who likes heavy metal music or whatever. So anyway, Carolyn, take it away. Get this out of my hands. I'll talk forever about it. I will.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know you will. I will say from the opposite side that has little less to do with the music history and a little more to do with the fact that as a 8th, almost 9th grader, I'm having an older brother who often called me Abercrombie and bitch.
Oh, wow.
Because I, of course, was wearing my Abercrombie and Fitch clothing. But I will say this was the year. Right.
Selling out to the man. I get it.
Right.
I don't remember saying that. Just for the record, like this is a popular story Carolyn likes to tell. I'm sure I did, but I don't remember it, and I feel bad. You said it in front of
all of your friends because you didn't want any of. This was the summer where you went to Northwestern for film. And I had gone to Germany for 2 weeks, but while you were gone for the entire summer, like all 2 months, your friends kept coming over to our house and taking me bowling and doing stuff with me and hanging out with me. And so Justin
I see what was happening here.
Snakes in the grass, all of it.
Snakes in the grass. So he was
amongst thieves,
constantly trying to be like, "Oh, my sister's such a diva. She's such an Abercrombie bitch." Like, I mean,
Carolyn, let's be real.
He was trying to protect me.
You were, and continue to have an edge about you that some might call kind of aggressive. And
I'm a proud bitch, and I'm good with it. I don't have a fucking problem with it.
That's fine. Okay. You're in charge. You're in charge, boss.
But when you say it in front of your friends, like in the hallway at school,
it's classless. And I would
say sorry, Justin.
No, he doesn't need to apologize. It's fine. I know I did it.
I would like to formally apologize on the air for the record, just so we can get this sorted out, clear the air. I was a 16, 17-year-old asshole.
And your friends were hitting on me
and do nothing. So
that's really funny. That's really cute, guys. I was glad you guys shared that.
This is what the people show up for: is the sibling friction. I think picking up these dead bodies and fucking airing them out.
But I will say, I do know why you were doing it, because your friends were a bunch of snakes in the grass. For sure. I always had a ride home.
As they should have been, you know.
Are you in touch with any of them?
No.
Or these are okay?
No, not really.
None at all.
I mean, no,
Okay.
not for.
I never.
Love you guys if you're out there.
Yeah, love you. Didn't date anyone in high school, so I mean,
Good.
Was that a date?
no. I'm just saying. I'm like I didn't.
Oh, you did. Okay.
I had a boyfriend for like 2 weeks.
I didn't date anybody in high school.
I know. Like I like had a boyfriend for 2 weeks, and then all of my friends were so mean about it because I was at boarding school, and the gays did not think he was worthy of me. He's since passed away in a motorcycle accident. Anyway.
Oh no!
I know. Sad. Anyway, that's a whole other story.
Wow.
I also didn't date in high school.
Okay,
but
look it up.
God, we are really cool. This is
because I went to I used to live with my parents. We were like really strict parents growing up. And then we went to like our school was an hour away from where we lived. So like we had to travel that amount of time to come back home. So there was just no opportunity either.
Yeah.
But also I was really awkward as a teenager. I think y'all have seen some pictures.
Well, I mean, this is what has led us all to podcasting, you know, like
we are so cool.
We all have a grace and elegance about us that's perfect.
I don't think I would have dated me.
Yeah, right. When you have that realization of like, oh, this is why.
Oh no,
this is why I was fucking annoying. You know.
I literally I have stress dreams. There's like my recurring dreams. I was just talking about this with someone else too. I have like 3 main recurring stress dreams. One is that I am dancing and I don't know the choreography, but also the stage is falling apart. So I'm not really worried about not knowing the choreography because I'm like, I'll fucking make that shit up. But I am worried about falling through the stage. So there's that stress dream. Then there's the one where I realize that it's like the final for a math class and I haven't been all year and I'm trying to find like the student counselor or the bursar's office or something so that I can drop the class before it affects my GPA because I haven't been to this math class all semester.
Sure.
It's very stressful. And these happen like regularly. These are dreams that happen regularly. And the other one is that I'm back in high school and I can't figure out why no one wants to date me, which was real.
I mean, I laugh, but it's very sad. Like you got,
but like that's what my middle-aged fucking brain. I'm happily married, and like I can tell you why I didn't date anyone in high school because I was a fucking bitch, and I was also super intimidating because I was a big fucking bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I wasn't actually a bitch, but I looked like one.
You had the resting face. I get it. I've got one of those faces too. Right. Yeah.
But I'm assuming, I must have been intimidating. That's all I can chalk it up to.
Carolyn, can I bring this back to the fashion, please?
Yeah, let's talk about this fashion. This is also the era, Justin, of like the Delia's catalog.
What is that? Explain.
Oh my God. This is where all the teenage girls were shopping for like their flower necklaces and their overalls. And it's kind of like,
was it like mall hippie gear?
Yeah, no, not even like mall hippie gear, but it was just kind of like that 90s fashion that's very like the Delia's catalog. You say it and every girl will be like, oh yeah, the Delia's catalog.
Oh, can I mention one more thing that's about the era? It's slightly music related. I'm sorry. I'll be quick about it. I have your permission. Okay. This is also, we are coming off of, I think, when this movie is filmed in 97 is sort of like the tail end of what came into the popular culture right around that time, which is swing music. There was a swing music revival that was hot for like 1 year exactly. And during that time, it was fine for brass arrangements to be on the radio. So you had your Brian Setzer Orchestra, right? You had your Cherry Poppin' Daddies, your Big Bad Voodoo Daddies.
This is, I think, something we were getting from those people in their 20s and early 30s that was trickling down.
Exactly. Right.
To the high school.
Right. It was its own subculture, and it was like a good way for older people to date. Like you go to swing dance class or whatever.
That's what old David Time Machine will tell you about the 90s is the swing music. Like, because he was a bartender. He was like rockabilly and swing music.
Exactly right, and rockabilly gets mixed into it a little bit because it's also throwbacky, and Brian Setzer's heavily involved, and that he's Mr.
Old
Rockabilly.
As jeans.
And also ska music too. So you had.
I was going to talk about Gwen.
Well, yeah, you had like grunge music, and then that extinguishes itself, and then it becomes like super heavy power pop. So that's where you get, like pop punk starts to come out, and you get your Weezers, and you get your No Doubt, of course. And No Doubt has ska influence. So they've got horns on spider webs. And then you get these other ska bands kind of creeping in there too. So it's a whole weird, like dancey horn revival at this point, which is now, it dies very quickly, as quickly as it came. It vanished. Never to be heard from again. But we see a couple greasy type of swing dance dudes in this movie. It's there. It's happening.
Yeah, it's there. But this is, I will say that this movie, I enjoyed watching it. I haven't watched it in years. I mean, I remember watching it a bunch of times after it came out, and then haven't watched it in forever. So this movie starts where we're at graduation. We only see their feet. And there's a rumor going around that what's the football player's fucking name? I can't remember.
Mike Dexter.
Mike Dexter. Sorry. Okay. So Mike Dexter has broken up with his girlfriend of 4 years, Amanda, played by none other than 90s Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Oh my gosh.
Her hair is enormous.
Her hair is bigger than her entire body.
Voluminous.
Yes.
She was a hot thing.
Oh, she's super hot.
All the boys had a thing for Jennifer Love Hewitt. I just remembered this very much.
And this is young Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah, she was on a show, right? Wasn't she on a show? Like a WB
One Tree Hill or
no, not Dawson's. Was she on? Maybe not. Maybe she was just movie star.
No, I know
what she did last summer.
Show.
Yes, I know I know what you did. I think that's where I remember her from.
Oh, she did a show later, wasn't it? Like not Ghost Whisperer. What was it? Ghost Whisperer? I can't remember.
Nobody watched it, Justin.
I don't know, but hold on. So Mike Dexter, who is the football star, has just broken up. We hear this while we're watching everyone's feet at graduation. Has broken up with Amanda Beckett, Jennifer Love Hewitt, and there's someone naked under their graduation gown, as one will do. And then the rumor gets around to Preston Myers, played by Ethan Embry, who we see all of a sudden does not care about anything other than Amanda and has been obsessing about her for 4 years.
Yeah.
So, and there's going to be a big party. That's where this intro gives us while we're watching their feet at graduation. And then, so we're like, okay, everyone's going to this party. It very quickly moves to everything's in one location. I kind of like how tight everything is, where it's like we are condensing this entire graduating class and all of the people to this one location, and all the various things that can happen at a house party.
There are also these, sorry to interrupt. There are these yearbook style quotes, freeze frames. So we get a sense, everybody's, again, the music underneath is attached to each character and what they're into. And then we get a quote from them and what their plans are going to be. And I checked out.
We get those stereotypes of okay, we've got the valedictorian, the nerd, we've got the writer in Ethan Embry's character, we've got the football guy, we've got so we're kind of seeing those roles we all know.
Speaking of those cutouts, there was one memory unlocked because of those cutouts.
Okay,
and that was the reference to Jewel.
Yeah, right.
Loved Jewel.
You were a big Jewel head? Okay.
Yeah, I think
you were playing Foolish Games.
These foolish girls.
So I know because me and my sister were really close to age, so she would always be the first one to listen, and then kind of.
She's older, right?
She's older, so she was always the musical influence. But dude, we used to jam out to some fucking Jewel.
I liked Jewel. I was a really big Fiona Apple, Tori Amos girl. Portishead.
Yes, you were.
I liked all those
little earthquakes blasting from your bedroom.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, at least I had good taste. I wasn't I already learned my lesson with the Backstreet Boys to not go there because of New Kids on the Block.
You were pulling from a wide array of influences, but you had some Ani DeFranco in there, like this.
Oh yeah, I had plenty of Ani DeFranco, but a lot of that was what my dance teachers were listening to, and they listened to great music. They were cool. I mean, Ginger, Ani, Betsy, shout out to you guys. They're still cool. Ginger has 5 kids.
Call me.
He's happily married and has 5 children.
But I'm just going to say Backstreet Boys was my jam. So we're not allowed to.
But you
see, I heard boys for a second, and I heard, and in my head, I wanted it to be Boys to Men that you were talking about. Because for me, I love fucking Boys to Men. They're on the soundtrack.
Boys to Men came to me later. Backstreet Boys came to me first.
Okay.
So by order of,
that's the right order. You don't want to step down from Boys to Men to Men.
You were born in 86?
Yes.
You were really the right age.
You were perfect. Yeah.
You were like right in there.
I was catered. There was being catered to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all.
Well, and also another music detour. The sign of the times. We haven't hit peak Carolyn. I'm sorry. We haven't hit peak Britney yet. We haven't hit Christina. Like that hasn't.
We are on MTV, TRL. Carson Daly is part of our life.
She came out in like 98, I think. Like when this movie came out.
I mean, we're there. We're at the sweet spot.
We just don't see it in the movie. Same thing with like new metal, like Korn and Limp Bizkit. Like that stuff's not in this movie because it was right before all of that. So.
Right.
Thank God it's not in that movie because.
I mean, I just want to say about this movie while we're talking about like the contextual time period that we're in, we are pre-cell phone. A phone call is made on a payphone.
Absolutely.
We are obviously pre-social media for pre-cell phone.
Yes.
So all the things that are happening it's still pen and paper. We're not sending it a love email.
Taking Polaroid.
There's no digital photos. There's nothing like that because that didn't exist. The internet was there, but people didn't have a computer in the form of a smartphone in their hand. Yeah. So it was a very different time period. The world, and to a certain extent, was a hell of a lot smaller because you weren't connected globally like we are now.
Right.
I mean,
your town, people in your town.
Right. So everything that each of these characters is like, the archetypes are going through, it's so specific to the time period because it is that small. It's just the world that they've been in. With some of them, they're like, remember in 4th grade when you did blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They've been holding grudges, and these same dynamics have been in play for a really long time for most of these kids. So it's like this Can't Hardly Wait is like, on one hand, they are like, oh my God, we're free. Like who's his friend, the redhead? Blanking on her name.
Denise. Yeah.
Denise. She's like, oh my God, Preston, like, what's wrong with you? Like, we are free. We're done. We can just get out of here and escape. And yet at the same time, there's still this desire. And I think this is a pretty common thing for high school seniors upon this moment. It's like, I can be anyone I want to be, but I also want to hang on to what's comfortable.
Of course.
And I'm comfortable knowing where I fit in with all these people. And when I go off to college, I am going to have to reinvent myself. Some people are really excited about that. And some people are like, I'm terrified of what that means.
Dexters of the world. Just real quick on the technology tip. I think it's really interesting you bring that up because the next year, 99, we get the next definitive teen comedy, which is American Pie, which is an abysmal movie. I'm so glad we did this one and not that one.
But it also takes the sex up times 10.
Exactly. Well, I was just going to say, like, we start
relatively innocent.
We start seeing the globalization start to creep in because there's that whole sex crime, like internet sex crime detour where they're all spying on what's her face, taking her clothes off, like through webcams. Like that's the beginning. That's ground zero right there of like naughty internet behavior. Like it's not to be found in this movie at all.
No, and there would
other than the nerds, right?
Other than I mean, and that,
and they just watch the X-Files. They're just popular culture now. That's been mainstreamed,
right?
But back then they would have been marginalized and thought of as weird. And now everybody's wearing X-Files T-shirts. Like we're all like,
right? Yeah, I mean, it was just really interesting to watch this and be like, oh yeah. I mean, I remember this time. I'm like, okay, yeah, but this is if I were to watch this with my stepsons, they'd be like,
what is going on?
That?
I can imagine.
It would feel like Leave It to Beaver. Yeah, I'm sure it would be.
Like us watching the movies in the 60s.
Right.
Like the high school ones that we watched.
Well, it's funny because even like the 60s, it's still a more recognizable world to this Can't Hardly Wait world than it would be in like 10 years when we've all got phones and we're all online talking to China.
Right. Exactly.
Isn't that what you guys do? China?
Yes. Yeah. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So I think organizationally here, what I would like to do is let's just get to the party. Let's get to the good shit.
Yeah.
Okay, because the party is where it's happening, and there's like some key groups of people. I'm just going to name them out, and then we can kind of go in whatever direction we want. Okay, so we've got Denise and Preston, who are brilliant, but kind of edgy, but kind of whatever. They're going to smart schools. They've got college plans. They are, they're going to be fine as adults. Right.
Philosophy majors and such.
Yeah, that type of thing. Writers, philosophy majors, whatever. And that I think is sort of like that's our primary window of viewing this movie, because obviously we have to hear Preston just obsessing. Mooning over, obsessing over Amanda.
We've got a lot to say about that. I'll save it though.
I've got a lot to say about him too, but when we get there,
You
the next group is sort of that skater ska group, Special K. I just want to shout out to.
Oh, you recognize them as skaters. That's interesting, because I see them as being influenced by hip hop culture, which is the other musical note we should talk about, which is that's happening, but it's not really found here other than these guys who are a bunch of white guys.
But it's also like people imitating that culture. Yeah. Which was a big thing, I think, or it was kind of in the upswing. Like people wanted to look cool, right? Like,
it's called what, Carolyn?
Cultural appropriation.
Yes. Okay. Right. Okay. Not everything has aged well. Certainly not these guys. These guys have not.
No, they have not aged well. But I will say they just kind of had that look of like the skate, like some like the big pants and the chains of it. Anyway, but also we could talk about goggles as a fashion, in sync, and
Horace Grant. Yeah.
Anyway, we've got Seth Green as Kenny / Special K. It is still made me laugh. He's such a nerd, but trying so hard.
But he's talking like he's from a certain neighborhood. And
that does not hold up well.
Not going over well,
no, it does not.
I mean, which is brought up in the film. It's not like the movie.
Yeah,
I mean, the movie's making fun of it.
Kind of resolves it. Like he resolves why he.
Right.
It's a very self-aware movie in that regard. Like it pretty much knows what it is,
except for how it treats our LGBTQ community.
Well,
it's not self-aware in that way.
I warned you last week, everybody. I mean, this shit is. There are like 3 in this movie, 3 F-bombs?
There are a number of F-bombs.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but you go ahead. Continue.
Well, okay. So I'm just kind of working my way towards what I would call popular kids. So then outside of Special K, I'm kind of working my way up the social ladder.
Yeah.
Kind of, whatever. Social merry-go-round.
Right.
I don't know.
Hierarchy. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you've got your brilliant kid, who's our valedictorian? What's his name?
William, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
It's William.
Charlie William Lichter.
Yeah. Did you recognize him?
Yes.
Shrishma Naik? He's the grown-up version. Like, this is a special movie because it plays on this a little bit, but he is the kid from Hook. He's Jack, the son. He is also the kid from the Dick Tracy movie. And he's in one more big one. What am I missing? He plays another like major kid role.
Okay, I did not recognize him.
So there's a little bit of like this whole thing is nostalgia and looking back, right, while facing the future.
He is now a lawyer.
Yes, and he's also a conservative lawyer. He's Republican.
Interesting.
Federalist Society lawyer. Yes.
Oh my God, he's from North Dakota.
What's the third movie, Carolyn, that I'm missing?
I'm looking it up.
Okay.
What about Bob?
But yes, that's the one. That's another crazy. We got to watch that movie too.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, we've got him. He's our valedictorian and his kind of group of friends.
Yes.
And then we have some ancillary people before we get to the popular group. Like we've got the girl whose house we're at. I was like, oh my God, it's me now. I'd be like, why are you making a mess? Don't go in that room.
Oh my God, that girl was
on their shoes.
me.
Oh, right. I'm watching the movie and I'm like, this is who I identify with. Not anyone else, but the girl who's hosting the party and is like, don't fucking make a mess.
Her shit.
Wow.
Losing her shit about the mess. We've got the guys who are high, where we see Jason Segel licking a watermelon for like the entire time he's in the film. I mean, he's going to town.
Yeah. We're all God's fault, right? I mean,
right. I mean, hey. Anyway,
I mean, that's another classic. Like all of these archetypes, we should maybe talk quickly about just where these, like the format for this movie starts probably with American Graffiti, right? Back in the 70s, looking back at the 50s. And it's all like last night of school and just like the different groups interacting in that world. Right.
It's the kind of same thing as Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused, same thing.
I mean, this is not the first of its kind. I mean, you could even say like the Breakfast Club. This is the late 90s version of it.
Right.
Which is something obviously for me, like I said, I was entering high school when this movie came out. So for me, I'm like, this is what I thought it would be like. Holy cow. It was like, but my expectations were kind of set by this particular movie. Moving on from, these other kind of groups that you've got, because you get a good cross section. And this is multicultural cast, thank God. It's great to see, but at the same time, like there's no person of color who's a main character. They're the best friend, or
it's part of the process. It took a while,
which was, I think, for the 90s, this was pretty like standard, like
at least it was happening, whereas we didn't see it at all before.
Right.
It was happening. And I think it does, representation makes a difference. It does.
Right.
So,
right. I mean, you saw it in Clueless, and like, this was definitely something that was happening in the 90s where like, yes, guess what? Your high school or where you go to school is not going to be completely homogenous.
Mm-hmm.
But also it was, I think, like a sweet time for like, we have to have one black character. And so it was always like there's room for one. So it was always, I think it was that time where if they had one, then they're filling the
kit and the quota.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Although I think that they had like four
here. Yeah.
4. And then what's his butt was in the popular sports guy group that's Latino.
Yes. Yeah. Jock number 3 or whatever.
Jock number 3, he's called.
And then also the Asian girl too.
Yes.
Who's almost special case, special someone. But.
Yeah. But then we get to the group that you would expect, which is your male athletes and your cheerleader girls, of whom Mike Dexter and Amanda, who just had their breakup. So everyone's going to this party and all the guys are like, oh man, Amanda's single now. Great. And Mike Dexter's trying to get his friends to break up with their girlfriends because when they go to college, it's going to be women.
Yes. Right. And the movie is painting them not as the heroes, but as villains. Which is
as like
important. Right. Not always the case.
No. Which is why I say that I definitely think that it's good for me to talk about this movie, because I feel like you're a very Ethan Embry, Preston Myers type character.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is really from your high school perspective. Obsessing over some girl.
Totally inappropriate.
Were you obsessing over a lady?
Yeah, I had major crushes. Yeah, big time. Just, you women are special. Yeah, I love you. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just a lot of feelings, and this is how it manifests. I mean, watching it now, it is not cool to watch him fixate in this way.
Oh my God!
Did you write letters too? Yeah,
I'm sure I did. I did all of it. Shrishma. I mean, it made like this character made sense to me. It was like, oh yeah, right. I relate to this. Okay. And I guess I wonder with this type of movie, which is in its way, for as kind of safe as it is, it's also a bit subversive because our main characters all are these thinking sort of artsy people, right? Mm-hmm. So I wonder, like with this type of movie, does somebody who was actually on the football team, do they like this movie?
I don't know.
Can they relate to this? because it's kind of making fun of cheerleaders and the captain of the football team and all that.
Listening audience, if you were popular in high school, and I don't mean art school popular, I mean like
popular,
traditional popular.
Yeah.
Call in, email us.
I wonder what it's. I have to imagine that it's a much more even playing field these days. Everybody's cool in their own way. I would think it's much more accepting.
You could have a social media following that,
I wish we had Kelly Murphy on speed dial for this, because she was popular.
Yes, Kelly Murphy, our cousin, of course, the great Kelly Murphy, who I saw this motion picture in the theater with in '98. We went together. It was like an afternoon. Cool. She was class of '98, so again, it would have been very relevant. But Kelly, if you're out there, I have not forgotten. It's very special sharing this movie with you.
But also let us know if you liked it.
Yeah, could you relate to this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just mention the Sarah Michelle Gellar with her? Isn't that her? With the yearbook?
No, that's Melissa Joan Hart.
Oh, my bad.
Of Clarissa Explains It All. Another throwback person where you instantly you see her and you have all of these feelings. If you grew up in the early 90s, you have all these feelings attached because Clarissa was an avatar for this weird coolness that starts to rise. Like Clarissa is a free thinker, kind of artsy in her own way, had the coolest bedroom. Would have her neighbor friend like put the ladder up and climb in through the bedroom window. She represents a lot of interestingness in my generation, I think.
Did she go on to play Sabrina?
She does.
She does.
Yep.
But didn't we also have Jamie Priestley in this movie? Presley, yeah.
Presley.
And then Selma Blair makes an appearance.
Right.
Yes. Looking great.
She always looks great. I mean, so we definitely have... There's a lot of young stars.
It's a rogues gallery of young talent.
Freddie Rodriguez, that is our jock number 3.
We have Freddie Rodriguez. Okay, shout out. Thank you for representing. Who is the guy who's the lead singer of the band? That dude. He is somebody. He was on Franklin and Bash with Mark Paul Gosselaar. He's very. I'm sorry. Oh
my God. But if you look up this cast, they're literally titled Gossipy Girl, Horny Guy.
Yeah. They don't even have names.
Breckin Meyer. Excuse me. Breckin Meyer. That's who it is. Brecken. Oh, okay. After all that, he's just another dude. He's another guy who was around, who started in teen movies. And
IMDb says that Liv Tyler's in this movie.
Yeah.
Liv Tyler's in this movie?
That's why I did not see no Liv Tyler.
I did not see her. Yeah.
I think that's a lie.
Clea Duvall from The Faculty. She's in this movie briefly. She was always cool. That was my type. She's really kind of edgy.
Yeah. But so we're at this party. And the big moment is when Amanda arrives and everyone's like, there's all these plans.
Yeah.
Right. There's all these plans, and we've already heard, Preston just obsess over her for like 15 minutes.
Oh, he's talking.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about it. Okay.
So he's in love. He's been in love with her for years, but he's never spoken to her, which is a red flag. I mean, just talk to the person.
Sometimes it's intimidating.
Of course it is, especially at that age. I totally get it. I was this guy. I know. It's sad because, like, don't burn all this energy on this. If you're not even going to talk to the person, like, what are we doing here? But he's been thinking about this, and he's written a letter, and he's going to give her the letter now that they're broke. Like, why did you wait for the breakup? Like, is this the most opportune time? I don't know.
Because he was being respectful of her being in a relationship.
Oh my God, stop being respectful. It's high school, everybody. Stop it. But yeah, it's just, it's putting her on a pedestal, right? Which is a no-go because she's a human being. She's a person, and you have to respect her and her own, like, wants and desires. You can't just make her be what this movie turns her into, which is slow motion, beautiful, angelic creature walking through the front door into this party of chaos and becoming an object, basically. Right. We're just objectifying her. And it's not...
Which is what she gets pissed about towards the end.
Right,
when she finally is like, oh my God, you guys are all like, yeah.
And maybe you ladies should talk about that.
Yeah.
Of the equation.
So
tell me about it as the man.
I will say from my side, this movie kind of gave me unrealistic expectations that there would be nice guys.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, no.
It is fiction, I guess. It's drama. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is he a nice guy though? Like, do you find him appealing looking at it now through 2024 eyes? I find him like, don't get so serious in high school. Like, this is not who you're going to end up with. This brings me to me now in 2024 eyes, the same conversations I've had with my stepsons, which is like, yo, high school's high school, but like, you have a lot of life to live.
Right.
So this intense feeling that you're feeling, I don't want to invalidate it because it is very real and it is very intense, but it's only intense because it's the first time you felt it for someone. And what happens is that you realize as you get older, you can feel it for a lot of different people and in varying levels of intensity. And the thing is that even if someone does break your heart, we just keep living. You can live on with a broken heart. And at some point you either get over it or it heals or you learn or whatever your process is, but you don't know that at this age. And the reason this is also like big and confusing is that, you know, you've got adult sized hormones, and bodies and like your brains aren't fully developed yet. So it's like, right. You know, so really it comes down, and it's also because it's the first time any of them have felt this way. This is when you start pushing the boundaries. You're like, I don't want to listen to my parents anymore. I want to reinvent myself. I want to get out. I want to spread my wings. All the things.
It's so funny because
it's so big. It's the first.
We're talking about this now as middle-aged people looking back, and it's so funny because I remember being that age and having those big feelings. Oh my God. It was all like the end of the world, right?
All consuming.
Yeah, of course. It just burned and burned and burned, right? And you can't break away from it, which is why you identify with like the Preston type of character. And I remember older people telling me like, well, you will get over it. Like it does, this does get better. There has never been an adequate way of explaining that to a kid. Nobody's ever been successful.
I think they have to go through it. It's like part of the, you know, growing up phase of life. Like obviously you're going to have to feel these emotions because it's just your body growing.
Right.
And experiencing life, whatever life has to do.
So did you guys ever find yourself in a position in your lives similar to the Jennifer Love Hewitt, aka J Love, aka I just like to call her Love sometimes. Have you ever been in that situation where somebody has interest in you, but you just like totally oblivious to it? Or
yes.
How did that go for? Like, what's the deal?
Well, I just have to say,
how do you perceive it?
Right.
Like that?
But I just have to say, like, it didn't happen in high school. So it happened much later, later in life.
Or I would say, because I would agree, for me, it happened in my like late 20s, but I also wonder if it was happening in high school and I just had no idea. Like I was, because I don't know. I had a weird high school experience in general.
It was different. Yeah. It wasn't the
standard. Mine was different too. I mean, I went to high school in Malaysia. First of all, we had uniforms. So all this fashion stuff wasn't happening, but
you didn't miss anything.
But, you know, there were people who would like roll their skirts higher, you know, like all of that.
That personality seeping through.
What was I talking about?
The unrequited love or the admiration of a mystery.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I didn't know that. You know, apparently this guy had a thing for me, and I was very oblivious to the whole thing. Yeah, it was just awkward. Like but if you're not interested in the guy, like you don't return the feelings. I think it just makes it awkward to know. Because what are you gonna do?
Right.
But I've also been on the other end of that equation where I've liked somebody and like I wasn't able to, you know, or I'm sure they didn't. Well, maybe today they know, but I don't know. We'll see.
So you can relate to both sides
of that.
Okay.
I think for me, it's almost like I don't think it was. I have no idea. If you went to high school with me and you have unrequited love. I'm sorry I somehow missed that because I just thought no one liked me. I'm really sorry. I was also really busy purposefully not dating.
You're a very focused person, especially at that.
But I will say in my 20s, like it was very interesting. I was taking a very large break from dating people after after, you know, getting a divorce and like not dating other gay people.
That'll do it. Yeah.
That'll do it. So I was like, oh, I'll just like spend some time being single. I had a lot of guys I went to, or not a lot, but like a handful of guys I went to college with that kind of came out of the woodwork that we had all like kind of reconnected at someone's wedding. And, you know, then they were like showing it, like, I always really, really liked you. And it was like, okay, cool. You know,
a wedding story like that.
Right. Everyone has a wedding story like that, I think. But the thing is that like, I mean, I was even sort of like open to entertaining, and then the guys didn't follow up on it.
This is my message to young men of the world. If you like somebody, you just got to talk to them about it. Right. You just need to just talk to them. You don't have to talk about it. You just talk to them first things first.
And the other thing is that if he had liked me in college, and granted, I was in a serious relationship for 3 years of college, and then married him, and then realized he cheated on me the entire time. But if they had told me, I might have been like open, like I wouldn't have like shut them down, you know, but so I don't know if they never said anything in college because I was dating someone. So then I'm thinking about like the whole even Embry thing. I don't know. Right. You know, I don't know. But one of them,
it's a classic dynamic. Yeah. It will go forever. Yeah. You can't get away from it. It's just how it is. Can we talk about the fact that they're drinking beer in this movie? Mm-hmm. They're drinking beer. The marijuana usage is implied, but I don't think we see any of it. Yeah, so it's not, we see stoners who are clearly stoned. Yep. And then also, as far as the ashtray count goes, we do have one cigarette plot point where one of the classic guys in the band has a cigarette tucked behind his ear and also sets fire to the curtains briefly towards the end. So the smoking is off the table. Right. By 97, 98, like it is not on, at least in the popular media. People are still smoking, of course, but it's not, I think people would still be smoking inside at this point because you can still smoke in bars up until like the early 2000s, basically. Right. But here, it's just not, it's not part of the popular media. They've cut it out, basically.
And I think this would have been like the first generation of like high school age kids where like, oh, you grew up on Dare. Like, we're not doing...
Yeah, there was just a general kind of cultural movement away from the glamour of cigarette and just also I think generationally we start seeing people drop, you know, like we start seeing people die of lung cancer at a much more rapid rate now that the smoking is built up over 40, 50 years or whatever. We
should note that the hat index, hats are now a statement piece.
Oh yeah, tons of. I mean, we definitely have visors. I saw visors,
but like the cowboy hat, the drummer brings out the cowboy hat, and there's a huge argument. The guy in the pork pie hat, no one says anything about, but the cowboy hat, the band breaks up over it.
Yeah, and he's not out of his mind either because at this point, Garth Brooks has come and gone. Like the cowboy hat was a legitimate symbol of something. It's just maybe not what this band, we never hear this band play, do we?
No, I think that's the point. I don't know what
they sound like. Yeah, that's
the band.
They like go 1, 2, 3, 4 at one point,
and then the
band Loveburger takes so long to set up and argue. The lead singer is very, you know, that thing you do. I quit. He's obviously in his like Beatles / who am I thinking of? Who are our 90s guys that love that they're bigger than
Oasis.
Oasis, yes. They're
sure. You know. There's definitely Britpop has also hit the scene at this point and have broken into the US as far as it will. So yeah, him with his sort of his poet blouse that he's wearing that through the blue velour jacket. It's it's such a look. What did Loveburger sound like? What was their genre? I want to know now. Like what
I do want to say the drummer who wore the cowboy hat is Donald Faison.
Yes, he is. He
goes on to play Turk in one of the best comedy series, Scrubs.
Ah, that's right. He was on the Scrubs. Yeah,
love Scrubs.
I'd love to see a black man in a rock band. Right. You know, like it's just you don't see it that often. It's just nice to see that people like music of all kinds coming together, uniting.
I mean, it was a total jab when the lead singer called him Hootie. Like that's when they broke out into like.
Oh, that's not a. That doesn't. No, that doesn't hold up. Oh, I forgot about that. There are all these little things now that shit used to be normal. Dropping F-bombs used to be kind of normal. And, we hear it like it's a punchline here where somebody just shouts at some,
it's
from
like
the crowd.
Like, your mom.
Yeah, basically. And it is its own joke. Like that's where we were at culturally. It's terrible. Glad we got away from that. But yeah. It's 97, 98. I mean, we're still dropping F-bombs in major motion pictures. Good God.
Right. So,
we don't see queer kids in this movie.
No, there are no.
We don't. Yeah,
I don't
no.
think so.
Okay.
This band never plays. And therefore, we don't know what they sound like. What we do get instead for a musical number is our very drunk valedictorian. So we should talk about what's his name, William Lichter. Yeah. Who and his friends. He's got this whole plot to get back at Mike Dexter, who he's got this long time sort of grudge with. Being made fun of by the jocks, right? So he's like, I liked his little like scroll through of all the clubs that he was in where it was like everything. Yeah. He's going to Harvard. So he just wants to embarrass Mike Dexter. So his whole plan with he and his friends, he has his friends hiding out on top of the pool house to jump on top of Mike Dexter and whatever jock friend who brings out there eventually so that they can knock them out and then pose them in a lewd manner. Yeah.
Some more not so subtle homophobia that this would ruin their lives if they're seen to be loving each other.
Yeah. So
kind of, boy, that hasn't aged well. The chloroform aspect hasn't aged well. No. All these things, you wouldn't see these things nowadays.
No. So he goes into the party to find Mike Dexter. And of course, I do like that his friend's like, oh my God, there's going to be alcohol. You can't drink.
You could get drunk.
You could get drunk. And he's like, no. I know exactly. There's like that whole exchange. You could get addicted.
Those guys are amazing. Those guys.
And he pulls out the like, no, I know exactly what I can drink for my body weight and blah, blah, blah.
He printed it out from the net. That's the only computer reference we get. He printed it out from the net.
Yes. So he goes in, he grabs a drink. The beer tastes awful, which I'm like, I identify with this moment of like, ew, alcohol tastes gross.
The beer has gone bad. Nobody drink the beer. So
to which everyone's like, what is your problem? So needless to say, he proceeds to get drunk. He then, while the band has broken up and is fighting, his former math student he used to tutor, who's the metal guy or the 80s band guy, turns on his boombox. I mean, let's talk about it. A boombox you put on your shoulder and he like holds it up and is like playing Paradise.
Yeah, so this is I'll just hop in here since we're talking about music real quick. Yeah. Sorry.
It's a great moment. It's a great moment.
First of all, the analog for a boombox nowadays would be a Bluetooth speaker. You know? Somebody would be holding that up to the mic. Second of all, this would be a sort of nostalgic reference because that song would have come out, 86, 87.
Right. That's what I want to say. It was a reference to
It would have been a throwback to like some classic rock, even at this point. So it would have been something that was a very popular song. People would have recognized it, but also it would have been like, oh yeah, I remember that, like that whole nostalgic kick. But yeah, he takes over the party. It's nice to see. Just singing along, doing a pretty good job. The girls seem to be really enjoying it. And
I appreciate that he's totally hammered and he's like, I know this song because the kid I used to tutor made me listen to it all the time. And he does a great rendition. The girls are into it. And he even gets taken into the makeout closet by a couple of ladies. And
there was a line he had created quite excitement about himself.
Some girls cried because they couldn't get in the room.
I will say this scene really brings it home. I like the fact that this party welcomes people of all stripes to it. I don't think that was actually a thing that really happened in regular high school. It's sort of like certain crowds have parties and maybe you're invited if you hear about it or if you're with the right person. But Nerdy William can show up, get himself a foul beer from the swing kids who are kind of gatekeeping, but still give him the beer. And the metal kid can still show up with his boombox. Come one, come all. I like to see that,
Yeah. I mean, this is also like, so we've got that going on. Mike Dexter is still trying to convince his friends to break up with their girlfriends who are like, I don't know, her dad got us tickets to go see Pearl Jam.
Right. And this
or Red Hot Chili Peppers or something. And they're like, it's in August. And he's like, what? I mean, so there's some great exchanges there of like, things are not going to plan for Mike Dexter. His night's kind of raveling apart because he even gets visited by the ghosts of graduation past with the
Jerry O'Connell, who must have graduated the year before. And he's basically like, don't break up with your girlfriend, man. I thought it was just going to be all parties and women and college. And they like care about things and like they want to date older guys and like they're dating some guy in pre-med. And, I mean, so it's just the jock is starting to see the life flash before his eyes. His glory days are over. Right. Yeah. Christmas future has arrived. What is up with Denise though? We haven't talked about our other, I was kind of getting through them so we could talk about Denise and Special K. I don't even want to touch Amanda and Preston yet. I want to next go to Denise and Kenny. Yeah. What's up? We're going to go upstairs at this house party while our nerd William Lichter is drunk and having the time of his life. Upstairs, stuck in the bathroom behind a faulty doorknob, is Denise, our too cool for school, can't wait to get out of there. And Kenny, who is inappropriately, culturally appropriating things. And also very horny. He's got a horny backpack filled with scented candles, oils, rubbers, like all kinds of, French ticklers. His whole thing is that he needs to pop his cherry before he goes off to UCLA. Carolyn, can we phrase this in the proper way, which is, yo, I gots to have sex tonight? Okay. Yep. Sure. We can phrase it that way. That's the official goal. Gots to have sex tonight. Yeah. He represents all teenage boy horniness. Right. It's all there. That is everything. He is a little avatar for that. He's a little demigod of inappropriate. Like, I've never touched a woman, let alone had sex with one, but that's all I want and that's all I'm thinking about. Like, he is that guy. I think that's just men all the time. Yeah, I mean, we don't break too far out of that mold, but at this point, because it's the first time you are that level of horny, it is the most powerful. It's the most potent, uncontrollable. Right. I totally get that. It's just that, like, I thought, this is my misconception, thank you, Hollywood, is that at some point men would grow up. And that, like, I've talked about it before on this program, where it's like, I thought I would like marry someone older and we'd be like sitting in front of a fire, like listening to jazz and drinking wine. Well, no, I still get fart jokes and dad jokes and, like.
But you're still drinking wine.
Yeah, by myself.
That's got it. There has to be people out there who are like that. No, but I'm just saying, like, even can you imagine? Like, I would be like so fucking bored out of my mind at the same time. I'd be like, you know what? I'd rather just curl up with a book and be with my dogs. I'm good. But I expected that boys would grow out of this stage. But guess what? Even the classy ones, don't. It's all about what's like. Can we have sex? Can I touch your body? Can I see your boobs? I would agree with you, but I will say that I've encountered enough, being a middle-aged person, like I've encountered enough of my peer group who have been in long-term relationships long enough to know that stuff does go away for some people. Not everybody, but there are definitely different levels of horniness. Yes, but if you got to see someone else's boobs, not the boobs you saw all the time, a lot of guys would be really excited about that just because it's someone else's boobs. Yeah, I mean, I think that might be the Hollywood aspect, because I think the reality is that there's a lot of variance in people's drives. Yes. It's just what I've gathered from talking to people. It's very true. That's a very good point. So I think maybe we need to break that stereotype of always being horny, unless you are always horny. In which case, But I think what's up? To your point, we could break that stereotype there, though, because as adult people, maybe not as teenagers, it could just be all horny all the time.
It's more if you're stressed, that affects your libido. If you're overweight, it affects your libido. If you don't go to your therapist, it affects your libido. Like everything affects your libido, basically. Like,
I mean, if you're a certain type of person,
I don't know.
But see, okay, so here's what I like about. Let's go back to Kenny real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say,
what I like about
Kenny. Yes, he's a little avatar for horny teenage boys.
Kenny's horniness is so funny because he's been obsessing over that for so long that he's had enough time to muster up the courage to go to like a sex store and buy all this stuff. That's as close to having sex as he's ever gotten to, is like, okay, I'm stealing myself to go into this very horny outlet store to buy my French ticklers for my backpack. And that was probably the sexiest day of his life when he did that.
The interesting thing
is he carries it with him.
He seems to really want to be a proficient. He just has no experience, but he seems to really
stretches and everything. Like I've never stretched.
He really seems to like want to please, though.
Yes,
so
that's promising.
It's like he would be promising because he seems very trainable.
Right, he's eager to please.
Yeah. So it would be like, well, let me show you, which I think is really the dynamic between him and Denise a little bit there, which is.
Yeah. Right. And so where is Denise at in all this? What's her mindset as she's dealing with these, I guess.
Denise is unburdening all the grudges she's held against Kenny since he ditched her going into junior high.
Which is terribly grudge-worthy because who is he to ditch anybody? Look at this man.
He's wearing goggles as a fashion statement.
Yeah, but it is sort of sad. Another bit of nostalgia, like throwback to simpler times when they could just be friends, and now things are more complicated. And I don't know, just I feel like Denise, if we're living in a reality, Denise would have dropped out of school. She would be working. She'd have her own apartment. She'd be like that type of person, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
And she's having a terrible time at this party. We should also be noting.
Oh my God,
she's not enjoying herself or her peer.
No one seems to know who she is.
That's really
like everyone is like, oh, Preston, good to see. Who's this?
Right.
You brought a friend. Is this your cousin?
So we're led to believe she checked out socially at a certain point, probably around that time that her and Kenny went their separate ways.
Right.
Wonder what was she doing though? Because it was just her and Preston. Like she doesn't have any girlfriends or anything like that.
No,
she didn't get along with the girls either.
Yeah, sure.
Like
there are people like that. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like she and Preston dated at one point briefly, and
oh, interesting. I never thought that. Was that? Oh, yeah. They met. They talk about it, don't they? Yeah. Were you this weird when we dated? Were you this bitchy when we dated? Right. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay. They managed to maintain the friendship post dating. It's very mature of them.
Yeah.
I guess
they really friend zoned each other.
It was a mutual friend zoning.
Yeah.
It's very rare, but it does happen, I guess. Only in the movies.
Yeah. But yeah, she, it seems like her whole raison d'etre in this movie is really to have a grudge against Kenny, if she doesn't seem to have, and be a support to Preston. She doesn't really seem to have her own, even desire, just other than to be done with high school. It's not like she's like, I'm going to go and be a playwright or.
Yeah, you're right. Her arc is sort of incomplete because it clearly bothers her that people don't know who she is. But this doesn't really change other than she starts accepting weird Kenny, I guess. Like they sleep together and
break through their barrier because clearly they were friends at one point. They went their separate ways, but then they kind of reconnected. So I think her arc was like finding, which is, minimizes her story, but limited to finding, a guy at the party.
Yeah.
And Kenny achieves his goal as they're locked in this bathroom and they finally hash things out and unburden themselves emotionally.
What they call it these days? You want to go unburden ourselves?
Yeah.
Well, they kind of talked too, right? They became.
Yeah, they did.
They realized they were friends.
They do some synchronized dancing to some New Kids on the Block, which we talked about last week.
Yeah. And, then it's like, okay, yeah, let's have sex. I'm still not quite sure where we take that turn other than they're bored, horny teenagers in a bathroom, stuck in a bathroom.
Good for them. Everybody's thinking it. They just went ahead and did it.
Great. Right. So there we have it. He did get to have sex tonight.
He did.
Very
Mission
rapidly,
accomplished.
we're led to believe.
Rather rapidly. And I guess Denise does tell him, like, it can go for longer. My question is,
he was doing his stretches and his.
but does it need to?
Well, I mean, yeah,
that's
I guess
a
that
personal
depends on
preference.
the scene.
Kind of what I don't, Denise.
They had nothing but time. She probably could have used it a couple extra minutes.
Maybe. Needless to say, that this has kind of now worked us up to the main attraction to this film, which is Preston and Amanda and an angel smoking a cigarette.
Jenna Elfman?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so what's the deal? How do we get there?
How do we get there? So after we have listened to Preston wax poetic on being in love with Amanda for 4 years, she's now single. Her second cousin by marriage has listened to her basically say,
wearing
like,
a very shiny shirt.
oh my God, it's such a shiny shirt. But we've gotten to the point where we have heard her say, I don't know who I am outside of Mike Dexter's girlfriend, which I'm like, oh, that's depressing.
At least she realizes it though. That's
Right.
something. That's she's a thinker. That's sort of a thing we're led to believe, right? Is that there is more to her than just being a
pretty.
popular girl, right? Yeah.
Right. But I think we have to hear her say that to really be like, oh God, that's super depressing. By the time Preston, who has left the party and is staring at the football field and then is listening to the radio because Denise told him that the song Mandy, which he's touting as yet another sign of why he and Amanda are supposed to be together, because why would I hear this song?
This is a problem. Stop looking for signs. The signs don't exist. Like, you have to use reality. You have to live in reality. Preston, sorry.
Exactly. Which is
fate is not at play here.
Right. He is all about like the signs and fate. And we've heard him talk about, oh my God, it was the only day ever I've been late for the bus, I wouldn't have seen Amanda the first day she stepped, into school. And then she was seated right next to me. And then we had the same Pop-Tart. And then Mike Dexter took her on the school tour.
Yeah.
And that was it. He missed his chance. So now he's going to get his chance again because they finally broke up. They were at the same party, but then he leaves the party. He throws away his letter in part because Denise told him that the song Mandy was written about Barry Manilow's dog.
Right.
I heard it was written about his dog. So then he goes to a gas station to get on a payphone to try and call the radio station because it's Barry Manilow's birthday and they have him live from a concert in Japan or something.
Is that what the deal is?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was wondering because it is very late when he is calling the radio station.
And he finally gets on the radio station. He's like, I just want to ask Barry. And then this hand hangs up on the phone from him. And it is Jenna Elfman, who is coming from working as a dancer in a gold bikini, in a white robe with angel wings. And her car broke down. And she's like, kid, my problem's a little bit bigger than yours right now. Then she and Preston end up, after she makes her phone call, getting into it. And he's like, you have no idea how many years I've been whatever, like waiting to have this conversation. And she's like, when you've had 40 men grabbing on you all night long, then we can talk about. I mean, that right there is where I'm like, I'm glad they addressed it. But she does take the time. She then feels bad and turns and tries to have that like almost motherly conversation of fate only takes you so far. It was really the gist of that. Like, you got to do things yourself. And she tells this whole story about waiting to see Ralph Macchio. No, who? Scapeo. Sorry.
Scapeo, yes. Yep.
Right.
Joni loves Chachi, and he was right there, and she didn't say anything. And so I always wonder what if. So if you love Barry Manilow, you get back on the phone and you call Barry Manilow. I do. I mean, it's funny. It's heartfelt. It is that sort of like, yeah, fate only takes you so far if you believe in fate. The other thing, though, is that I'm like, this is every adult watching this film.
Talking to the kids.
Talking to the kids. Like,
right. This is the whole message. Yeah.
But not wanting to completely break their souls and be a soul crusher and be like, why why the fuck do you think that whomever you're in love with in high school is like you don't even know who's out there in the world? Why are we wasting our time on someone that, right? There's a lot of fish in the sea.
Mm-hmm. And but the kids, they don't know. They don't have the perspective.
Well, I think that's what the internet has done, right? It's opened all the fishes and all the seas.
Yeah, exactly.
To all the people.
It's united the 7 seas. That's
right.
what the internet, if it's done one thing. Wow, that's true.
I don't know. To a certain extent, I have watched a lot of teenagers in the last few years just like have crushes on people where I'm like, why are you wasting your time on this teenage boy that can't clean his bedroom?
Yeah, these feelings, though.
I know the feelings. I know, but like,
feel them. You can't help but feel feelings.
And I am literally like, wow, the whole world is open to you on your cell phone, and yet we're still talking about the guy that sits next to you in math class.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
Well, then we get the proximity effect. You just spend time with people, and it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So what? Now I forget how we get to the point where everybody is asking Amanda out. And then Preston comes in with his, but like, how did I forget
so we get there because.
Oh, there's a big scene, right?
There's the big scene between Mike Dexter and Amanda in front of everyone at the party. And this is where we get one of the F-bombs at the end. But this is after he's been visited by the ghosts of graduations, past and present. And he's been advised by Tripp to don't break up. Amanda, she's a real piece. Don't break up with her. Mm-hmm. And so then really Mike goes back into the party, and this is, and finds Amanda, and he's like, Amanda, just get back together. And she's like, what? No. And then he, this is then in front of everyone. Everyone gets quiet as this is all happening. And then finally he's like, I'm giving you a chance to get back with me.
You lucky lady.
And she's like, you know what? Give me one reason. And then she's like, you know what? No, I don't need a reason. We're not doing this anymore. Because she realizes, I got to figure out who I am outside of my relationship with Mike Dexter.
Yeah, she's a really interesting character from that regard because she doesn't know who she is. So like we already talked about it kind of, but we don't know who she is either. And how could we when she doesn't know who it's almost an incomplete character in that regard, but I guess that is characteristic.
Was this film written by men?
I think it was written by man, woman, not a couple, but like writing team. I think it was Harry Elfont and Deborah Kaplan are their names. I think those are their names. They did Josie and the Pussycat movie as well.
No, that's
funny people.
Directors, Deborah Kaplan, Harry Elfont. Maybe they wrote it too.
I think they wrote it.
Oh yeah, written and directed by. So here's my thing, because I kind of feel like a lot of the female characters are underdeveloped. It's a very male-centric film, and I kind of feel like Denise isn't fully developed. Yeah. I think in a later movie she would have had a really driving force to want to be an investigative journalist or something, right. Or go work in a war zone. I don't know. Or I feel like she would have had more than I want to get out of here. She would have had some bigger goals, and I feel like Amanda's character would have been more fully developed as well, because otherwise it's she just goes from Mike Dexter to
immediately into
Preston. You tell me who I am, because Preston's entire understanding of her is from afar and based on a Pop-Tart.
Right. So I wonder how much of this also is the result of just paring down the script. I'm sure you write this and it was probably twice as long. There was probably full arcs for everybody. And then you got to cut for time, or the studio gets a hold of it and has their notes, and we need more white men, that kind of thing, and that's just what we end up with. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the ladies are compromised a little bit throughout.
Yeah, but also, ladies, if someone does pour their heart out to you, they better have something better than a fucking Pop-Tart as a basis for liking you.
Right.
Yeah.
Better be more than you're pretty and we eat the same Pop-Tart.
I love you because fate dictates it. That's all he's saying.
That's pretty standard Bollywood.
That's true. I guess that's true. That's enough. Bollywood enough.
Right.
Just fate would have it.
Yes.
We are together.
We are destined to be.
Okay.
My eyes locked with you.
Right. But some music started playing.
Right.
And
okay, so who believes in love at first sight in this group?
Oh my God.
Oh, I don't. No.
But I also don't want to be like that cynical person. So like, I get it, like maybe, but
I believe in attraction at first sight, but love is like a whole other thing. As far as, are we supposed to be together? That's a whole other fucking bag of issues.
Right.
So I do believe in like,
obviously attraction at first sight. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Love, like this is destiny. No.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
So anyways, there's that whole blowout where Amanda very firmly says, no, even I don't care what your reason is to get back together. I don't want to get back together with you. Mm-hmm. And so then as she's walking out of the party and just kind of storming off, that's when all the guys kind of come out of the woodwork and they're like, oh my God, remember this one time I really would like to like catch up with you about the blah, 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 or now that you're single, or, and they're like staring at her boobs while they're like trying to talk to her. And so she gets all the way through the house. After all these guys hit on her, even the high Jason Segel's like, do you want some watermelon, Amanda?
Yeah.
Until she bumps into Preston, who's come back to the party because fate only takes you so far. And he's like, Amanda, I want to talk. He's trying to take his moment. Right. And she's already she found the letter. She doesn't know who Preston is, but she's like, this letter is great. I want to meet this guy. He obviously knows who I am, even if I don't know who I am. So let me have Amanda find me yet again. I'm just going to say that. She's just going to let the men in her life define her. Fuck that shit. She doesn't know it's Preston she's talking to. And she basically like lets it all out. And I'm like, okay, how dare you stupid fucking men just think I'm a piece of meat to be, you know, ogled over, essentially.
Right.
Except for the fact that the character is belying the fact, because she's allowing men to define her. She allowed Mike Dexter, and she's clearly on the search for Preston, who she doesn't know she's talking to Preston, to also help her figure out who she is. Right,
because she has found the letter. But she doesn't know who he is. Like, this is the core problem yet again. Just
she's falling for someone, or she's interested in someone because of a letter they wrote, but she doesn't know who it is. But she's
written in the stars for those two.
But she's seen him this whole last 4 years in high school. Like they've been in the same classes together. She's never noticed him out of his physical traits, but
there's no attraction from her.
Yeah, right. But like this hypothetical person that wrote the letter. So what is she looking for? Like, you know, clearly not this guy, but it turns out to be him.
Right. So then the cops come. No, that's not when the cops come into the party. But basically, we're kind of there. We're pretty much there. Like,
Loveburger reunites for mostly old stuff, but they never get to play. Yeah,
they never get to play. The cops come in. This is also when Mike Dexter and William Lichter have sort of like, they're both drunk and consoling each other, and they like have a good heart to heart.
That's right.
Then they're running from the cops, but then the friends who've been waiting on the pool house rooftop jump on top of them and put them in a compromising, sexually explicit photo. Which obviously, hey, you love whom you love. I don't care if you like men and squids. It's whatever. I mean, you do you.
Yes. Just wanted to highlight, I think it's my favorite joke in the whole movie when the police show up and they're sitting at the piano and William starts playing this like Keystone Cops music on the piano, and Mike has to like drag him away.
He's like, no, we gotta run.
Yeah, we gotta go. It's so funny.
So anyway, the party clears out. We get to the next morning. We are with William in jail, where Mike Dexter has said that it was all his fault, and so he doesn't get in trouble and anything else. And they all end up at this diner. So this is where we're in diner culture. We're in like I'm thinking of like swingers and everything else. We're at like a 1950s style diner. And Denise and Preston are having their goodbye convo in the parking lot, as Preston's going to head off to he's supposed to be going to some summer intensive with Kurt Vonnegut for writing.
Right.
And he's like, no. And when Denise is like, yeah, I ended up with Special K. Great. And he's laughing and making fun of her. And then she's like, well, what about you and Amanda? And he's like, you know, no, it's reality hit. Right.
And just when you think Preston's going to make some progress in his life, maybe move on.
Right. And everything kind of goes back to somewhat normal in the morning in terms of some of those interpersonal dynamics, which is we kind of get back to those cutaways. William tries to like thank Mike at the diner, and then Mike is like, oh, Urkel, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, so, and then it,
which is a sick burn, by the way.
Yes.
He's
and
totally right.
And then it does cut away. So it's like, yes, William Lecter goes off to Harvard and becomes one of the most popular students and is now dating a supermodel or something. So obviously, like, you know, the geeks have won. Kenny and Denise break up 5 minutes later and then get to back together 10 minutes later after they find a bathroom. So clearly it's just all about sex with those two. Mm-hmm. Preston is about to get on the train to Boston, and Amanda shows up at the train station. And she's like, tell me who I am based on my like of strawberry Pop-Tarts.
I need definition, and you're the man for the job.
I need to, yeah. And there's this like, Amanda wrote Preston a letter every day that he was away and they're still together. Okay, no, gross. Gross is all I can say.
Yeah.
That does not hold up.
Yeah, that's... I mean, again, questioning how much you progress from age 17 or 18 or however old they're supposed to be to 23. It's gargantuan. It's so huge. You're still together? You broke up for one day and found this dude.
Right, which is... So that's the end of the movie. Yeah, it's like, okay, I can't hardly wait for what to be defined by a Pop-Tart.
I will say my experience of seeing this in the day at the time in the theater was like, oh, that's really romantic. Like that made sense to 17-year-old me.
Yeah.
Was like, oh, that is the goal. Still together to this day.
Right.
You know, like that's what you wanted. That's what everybody's looking for is permanence in a world of impermanence, right?
Right. Watching it now though, I'm really like
be defined by a Pop-Tart.
Well, let's start there. Let's get beyond that.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Now that we've gone through the plot and kind of talked with these other characters, like, okay, guys, really, how do you feel about this whole Preston and Amanda thing? Like,
I still, for the sake of the movie, I'm happy that it worked out for both of them and that they are still happy enough to be together to this day, which back then would have been a couple of months and now has been 25 years plus. And so, you know, as an adult, I'm just sort of, I kind of roll my eyes at it a little bit, but it is the romantic high schooly thing to do to have it end that way. So I'm fine with it ultimately, but in reality, it's not, no, thank you.
Figure it out.
Well, not much has changed. I feel it's just like the medium through which people express themselves has now changed.
Now they're all just sending like snaps,
DMs
dick pics through their Snapchats or whatever, right? Isn't that what kids do? I don't know.
Swiping.
Yeah, sure. Swipe culture, you know, going live.
Yeah.
Go live.
OnlyFans.
Talk about, I will say that, again, we talked about it last week a little bit, but this idea about talking about your feelings and being communicative about what you're going through, it's much more normalized and healthy and progressive these days than it was back then when it was just one kid in the high school who goes to a writer's conference and he has all these feelings. Now it's everybody, and we can all talk about this openly, and that's probably for the best, right?
Right.
You're not alone, right? That's the message.
Right.
But you're not a Pop-Tart. Let's keep that in mind.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get down and dirty to like finish this up. Do we keep it? Do we not keep it? If you want. Yeah,
I don't want to cut you off. How are you feeling? How are you ladies feeling about them being together forever at the end of the movie?
Sure. I mean, they didn't say forever, right? They said to this day.
Yeah.
So that's open-ended.
It is. And within the time that movie came out, it could have been just a year. Maybe they went out for a couple of years and that was it. So who are we to know? But you are a Bollywood romantic, so you like this, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Bunch of romantics here. Jesus.
No,
I'm not a big fan of the romantic movie. I also agree with Carolyn when she said, like, you're in fucking high school. Why are you trying to find the love of your life in high school? But then, you know, movies about teenage hormones do really well. So
they're always there.
Right.
To me, what I find, you guys are both so romantic, and it makes me feel like not even cynical, but just
mean.
Maybe, I don't know. I come at it from the perspective of I feel like, yes, the female characters are not like fully developed in this film. And the other thing is that, you know, I'm just kind of pissed for Amanda that she literally is like jumping from one guy to the next guy, and not for any other, I'm not mad about it for any other reason than you just said you don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you seeking for some other guy to tell you who you are? And by the way, both of these guys that you're allowing to define you, even though you're clearly saying, like, I don't want to be that anymore. They're teenage boys who can't fucking clean their rooms, most likely, and their laundry smells. Like, come on.
Yeah. So, Carolyn, what do you think? Let's pretend, a little thought experiment here. Let's pretend that Amanda continues to reject Preston. She's like, you know what? I just got out of a thing. I got to spend some time with me. What, in your wildest dream, where is she at if she does not define herself by her relationship with this man? Where is she at 5 years from the end of this movie? Like, what kind of quest has she been on? Because she seemingly has zero personality traits other than being the hot one, right? Like, do we think she got into beat poetry or maybe some kind of pottery or urban farming or something like that? I mean,
I think she went to law school.
Sky's the limit. She needs some interests, though, some hobbies.
But they don't showcase any of that. Because we don't know what her interests are. Was she good in school? Did she graduate? Like, you know, does she have college plans? So we don't know anything about her.
But it's the same thing about Denise, who is, has college plans, but we don't hear any of, like, that's why I'm like, Denise would have been fleshed out by, like, she wants to be an investigative journalist, and she ends up working for the New York Times or like Spotlight unit for the Boston Globe. And she's going to expose some bullshit. Right. I don't know. I mean, maybe Amanda ends up going to law school and she's a human rights lawyer, like Amal Clooney.
I love that for her.
I love that for her too.
I love Amal Clooney as well. I just want to throw that in there. Jeez.
I love George Clooney.
Well, I mean, sure. Like those two, what is that? The most beautiful couple you've ever seen? Jesus.
Right. I would like to think that George is a grown-up, but probably not. And also, you know, but I would have the expectation of sitting in front of a fire and listening to jazz and drinking wine with him. And then also being like, George.
Yeah, no, he's going out with Damon and Pitt.
I know.
They're like being
boys will be boys,
you
know.
Lord.
Taking the speedboats out on the
Actually, I would want to be a boy with them on that trip because I feel like it would be a lot of fun.
You'd want to be Ocean's 14 is what you're saying.
Exactly.
You'd want to be part of the team.
Right.
Yeah, let's get to do we love it or list it? Do we like it or keep it? Do we hate it or keep it?
Yeah.
Shrishma?
Tough one. I honestly, like, I remember watching this vaguely, but on my rewatching, I just don't feel like we need to keep it.
You didn't connect with it? I mean, so you don't like it, right? Okay.
Not so much.
What? Any specific reason? Is it just everything we've talked about?
Yeah, everything we've talked about. It just felt like very cliche 90s. I know there was some really good movies. Like, I just felt like this one, if I had to choose, I just would not choose to keep this one. There's a lot of other ones that.
Yeah, there's other options in this genre. Yeah. I hear that.
I'm going to say keep it, but it's kind of a borderline keep it. Whereas maybe if you'd asked 17-year-old Jay-Z, it would be a hard keep, right? It would be like, oh yeah, this represents everything, feelings and all of this. But seeing it now, I think, you know, it's important because it was a moment in time, very well captured in a semi-amusing fashion. Like, there are jokes in this movie. This movie makes me laugh, and it kind of ticks all the boxes. And again, I think the sort of subversive hero point of view that we get is better because we get like a nerdier, kind of like a very diffuse version in American Pie the next year, where it's like, are you guys popular or are you nerds or are you jocks? Like it's sort of like it's chaotic in that sense, and therefore kind of toxic ultimately. But this one avoids most of the toxicity. You know, we talked about the stuff that hasn't aged well, that will never look good, but it was of the times. So yeah, keep it.
Okay. I mean, so me of the time period would have kept it. I totally hear it. Like it does capture a very specific late 1990s vibe.
Yeah. 9/11, if you will.
Yeah, pre 9/11. That's a good way to date it. And I don't think that I would have ever, as a teenage girl, thought about these female characters being underdeveloped, especially in comparison with the male characters, which definitely seem overdeveloped in a lot of ways. Like, they're given a lot more screen time than these girls are.
We spend more time with Memories Guy than we do with Denise, really.
Correct. Yes.
I bet it's very comparable to screen time if you counted it.
Yeah. So therefore, you know, I'm going to say it's a no, because I have to do it from my perspective now.
Yeah, sure.
But that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it for what it encapsulates. But I'm just like, as a girl from this era, I like me for more than my Pop-Tart.
Yeah. You're saying you actually could hardly wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could hardly wait. So that's 2 no's and a yes.
All right. So it's not going to fly.
Doesn't fly. But I will ask you both, what item do you want to take into the Delia's catalog of the 1990s wing of the Boom Room?
So it's got to be an outfit? Is that
no?
Oh, okay.
No, it does not have to be an outfit.
I'm going to say, just because it's so inappropriate, but also cool looking, the chloroform bottle. It's the neon green chloroform with the skull and crossbones. Kind of badass.
Okay.
But kids don't use chloroform ever.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't actually have anything. Maybe like the payphone.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's a good
all
one.
the time too. Kind of the swan song of payphones. Those are gone in 5 years.
Right.
Honestly. So
yeah.
What about you, sis?
I'm a little torn between Kenny's goggles.
Yeah, good
as
one.
fashion, and the letter.
Oh, the letter.
Mm.
Yeah.
The goggles are more like this was a weird trend in the 90s.
Yeah.
And the letter is more like of the movie. So I think in this instance, I'll leave the letter in the movie.
The letter is a weird trend of mankind, basically.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, guys, that's it. That can't hardly wait, and it sounds like we can definitely wait.
We're gonna have to wait on this one, you guys. It's not making it through. So sorry.
Next one.
Them's the breaks.
Yeah. What is our next one?
Yeah. Transition.
Speaking.
Shrishma Naik.
Yes.
The arrow has fallen on you.
All the pressure.
What's it gonna be?
So for next time, I've picked the lovely movie While You Were Sleeping.
Rom-coms.
Okay.
Sandra Bullock. I forget the male actor's names.
Peter Gallagher.
Bill Pullman.
Yep. I'm excited to talk about. I haven't seen this since I saw it in the theater.
Wow.
Back in the day. Is this the movie? Never mind. We'll talk about it next week. Sorry.
It's in Chicago.
Did they talk about serendipity in that movie? About how it's the most popular word? Am I confusing it with the John Cusack movie?
I think you're confusing it with Serendipity.
Oh, the movie Serendipity?
Yeah, right.
Jesus Christ. All right. I'll excuse myself. I'm done.
Okay.
But I'm looking forward to it. While You Were Sleeping.
Next week, 1995 is While You Were Sleeping, starring Sandra Bullock and some white dudes.
Again, 95. That's a great year for me. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for the outfits.
You know, at some point we have to do Jim Carrey movies.
Yes, we do. Oh, God, I got to get Mike on for Jim Carrey.
Yes, we do.
All right.
I'm a big Jim Carrey fan. Big.
Okay.
Okay, but this time we're going Sandy.
This time we're going
Classic Sandy Bullock.
Yes.
And Peter Gallagher's eyebrows starring in while you were sleeping. But anyway, I know the one we're talking about, and I'm looking forward to it. And it's not Serendipity.
It's not
Serendipity have the scene where they meet, like trying on gloves at a bargain bin?
I don't remember watching.
Right.
Oh my God. Okay. That's a different movie. That is Serendipity.
2000s Time Machine. It's got to be.
It's John Cusack. Jesus. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Until next time, folks. Here's looking at
Never forget, this has been
Time is illusion. Time is an illusion.
Oops, all 90s.
Oops, all 90s. Oh my God.